to a session for some reasons called Crime and Health. But as I look through the presentations, I don't see much crime and health, maybe, but we're going to have a good session nonetheless, right? I've met the presenters and they're fired up, and it's going to be exciting and intellectual. And the very first presenters we have are Kanika Verma and Vivek Tripathi from Texas Christian University, and that is Kanika, and the University of Delhi is Vivek, and the title of their presentation is Media Portrayal of Secular Nationalism in India. Let's welcome them.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I thank you all for coming to this session and for coming to listening to this presentation, which is titled Media Portrayal of Secular Nationalism in India. And so we both are co-authoring this paper, and Vivek is traveling all the way from New Delhi, India, and that's where I got my master's from. So I'm giving it back to my, you got it. So I'm going to start with a discussion about globalization and media. And we all know what globalization is and how fast-paced it is today. Increasing interconnectedness of people and places through various avenues and channels such as transportation, internet, advances in technology, and trade and commerce, and how people and places, it's becoming a fraction of few hours, and how people, they can get to different corners of the world. And not just that, when we look at news, media, right, we don't just rely on print media anymore. For example, social media, right? It's big, it's huge these days, and a very recent update by Facebook is Facebook Live, which is, I can live stream my presentation right now, and my family and friends on my Facebook can see me live presenting this presentation here at REP in Kent, Ohio. And they can comment, they can share my presentation, and they can do all kinds of things with that live video on Facebook, on their newsfeed.
Are you doing that right now?
No.
Oh.
So yeah, I wish I can, yeah. So imagine that with an incident such as a religious riot or a clash, for example in India, and people live streaming that, and it's reaching every corner of the world. What happened in New York last week, the bombing, and people were actually videoing and filming it. So spectators these days, because of such globalization and the connection of media, they're not just passive spectators, they're active spectators. They're involved in the incidents and occurrences in real time. And when they share, when they comment, it's so much quick that it can trigger a clash in the online world, right? What happens with Trump politics, or what happens with Black Lives Matter here in the US also. It's the same in India with different religious clashes and how media portrays that. So the focus of the presentation today is not about what group is represented, but it's about how media represents it, different occurrences and different groups. So the purpose of our presentation today is to underscore the role of media in defining the perceived meaning of secular nationalism with a focus on India, and in informing the discourse on belonging to the Indian nation or to a religious community. So we're going to look at, what concept is higher to the citizens or to the people? Is it the national identity, or is it first belonging to my religious group? So am I a Hindu first, or I am an Indian citizen first? So, and how media portrays that, and some of the media portrayals actually trigger clashes among Hindus and Muslims. Also, to analyze the contribution of media to self-perceptions of religious and national identity among the citizens, so similar example, and also to the existence of a religious identity which is subsumed under a national one. A little bit about the history and demographics of India. So when India gained its independence from the colonial rule from Great Britain, from the British, it was in 1947. And when the British left, the country of India was divided into two separate states, two separate countries, India and Pakistan. So India became a multi-religious, a multicultural, multi-ethnic state, and Pakistan was predominantly a religious state, and the majority of the population, they were Muslim, they followed Islam. So it was mostly, and it is still today, mostly a homogeneous society. In contrast, India adopted a pluralistic society, so it is multi-religious, multicultural, multi-ethnic, multilingual, and it is continuing today. So when India got independence in 1947 and it formed its own country, there were about 361 million people in the country at that time, and of those, about 315 million people were Hindus. And the trend is the same today if you look at the other distribution for other religions. So more than 80% of the population today in India is Hindu, about 15%, which is the second predominant group, they're Muslims, and then the rest 5% are a combination of Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, and several other minority religions. Now, again, we know these concepts, but just for a quick revision, the concepts of nation and nationalism and how it's different from secularism and how we're going to portray that in the context of India. So nation, the feeling, the concept of nation, that we belong to a similar group, that we share certain cultural traits such as religion, language, history, political identity, and from that concept arises a feeling of nationalism, which is a feeling of belonging to a nation. So the state boundaries and the nationalistic boundaries may not coincide. Members belonging to a nation group may not live in the same territorial boundaries of the state of a country. And that's why clashes arise that, we want a separate country, we're fighting for sovereignty, for independence, because we want to identify our feelings of nationalism with a territorial imprint on land. So secularism is when citizens are treated equally as far as religion is concerned, and all the citizens are free to practice and follow and adopt their own religion. So, religion and politics, they are kept separate, right? Religion is different, politics is different as far as the state is concerned. Now, what's happening in India, these two feelings, these two concepts, nationalism and secularism, are in a constant clash. And instead of increasing harmony between these two concepts or feelings, they're drifting apart. And a major role that's contributing to that clash, to that drift, is of media. Not only of the citizens, but of media, how the media portrays that and fires more clashes. In Indian context, secularism, the division of religion and politics is not very strict, and the state is allowed to support all religions equally. As I said, it's a multi-religious, multi-ethnic society. Now, the mantra of unity in diversity is what drove the nation when it got independence, and it's still today. It's a very underlying principle that's driving the country. That it's vital for their existence because it's so multi-religious and multicultural, and it is also very important for modernization and for to the concept of nation building. So to replace traditional and old-fashioned ideals, to support all the groups equally and work for the upliftment of all the groups equally. Also, Gandhi's concept of national identity was in harmony with what drove university and diversity and concepts such as those. So how does that connect with whether the media is secular or not, whether the media is biased or it is neutral? So the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, it recommended that the Indian government should ban all those television channels that have any affiliations or strong inclinations towards any religious group or any political group, for example. And then it also confirmed that such a ban would not mean that any expressions of religion would not be allowed on other channels, because there are also several private players, and you can enforce only so much in a democratic country like India. Right? India is also, for example, facing a huge population problem. China was able to enforce a one-child policy, but not India, because people will be out in the streets in clashes and revolts. So similarly, you cannot impose a ban on the private channels, on the private players, but only on the government-run channels, for example. Now, in a study conducted by Mankaker, how they interpret what is being shown on different news channels or in media, today social media like Facebook or Twitter, the broader social discourses in which they are interpolated, and also what's happening in the viewers' lives and the relationships in which those viewers define themselves, right? Whether I belong to a minority or a majority religious group, and what my perceptions are, what my political affiliations are, and how I will perceive those events that are happening is different for everybody. And also institutionalized production and circulation of images and symbols of how they are portrayed in media. It transforms the boundaries of the political sphere. It also fades out national boundaries today. For example, if there are here a few examples, but let's focus on Danish cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad. So when these cartoons, they came out, it just did not affect the citizens or people of that country. But there were clashes and riots in other countries, and the Muslims were upset, and that it was like a social rebellion in the online world also. So similarly with other events, and how the ideas of nation state, how they are being redefined now today. What it means to be Indian, what it means to be a nationalistic personality, or you're for a particular religious community first, with the again with the coming of the international channels and satellite world, right? So I was already in the US when that internationally known rape case in Delhi happened, and people were asking me, what's going on in Delhi, and I said, I'm reading as much as you are on the news, I'm right here. So it's how they're portrayed, how they come out in the media. And the US has as many rape cases, in some instances more than happen in India, but how the rape cases in India are portrayed in media and in the international media, and how they're portrayed in the US or not. So that's the difference. Now, from this slide, my co-author Vivek will continue and talk about particular incidents that happened in India and how they were portrayed by the media. So he's going to take on some case studies. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. So now I am looking into the incidents that has happened in India, and how the media channels, different type of media channels and news reports were conducted, and how they portrayed these things. So in this case, you will find that there are two types of basically media houses. One is man by top journalism, wherein they are just working on the news channels, wherein they want just the TRPs, the target rating points. So they want to cover such incidents that can get the attention of the people and maximum people. So they don't have to look into any other thing. They forget and ignore the other journalist discourses. They just want to get the target point TRPs. So they just wanted to portray such type of incidents. For example, if you see, so there has been two incidents. One was the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh. It is a nationalistic Hinduism a society. So what it is doing, it was conducting a get together on the January 2016 on the nation building issues. So in that case, how the news channels started showing it, that a Hinduistic society, and it is conducting a similar some type of organization, and they are conducting such type of get together wherein they are going against the Muslims. While in another issue, and it was not portrayed much, while there was another issue wherein 250 people were about to be converted back from Hinduism to Muslims. So that was a very small incident in a small part of Uttar Pradesh in India. So it was portrayed in all news channels, being very detailed. So that part, while in the RSS meeting, that those people were working on the like how we can portray our nationalism and how the Muslims and Hindus can work together. But media was not portraying that thing; it was portraying it otherwise. So second one is verbose journalism, wherein it is like a big lie. The more you tell one thing again and again, you repeat that thing, and people will start believing that it is the truth. So, for example, you take example of RSS terrorist. So, what happened in India? So, there was RSS, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. So, people are often they are afraid of this organization. So, earlier political organization, that is Congress in India, it started portraying this organization as if it is a terror organization. So there was always randomly you will find that news channels are portraying RSS has done this, RSS has done this, while it was not doing in reality, but it is portraying it as it is. So it was like viable journalism. So these two types of news reporting are being conducted in India. So why it is happening? Because the media houses mostly are being owned by the people who are very much influential, and they have connected with the different type of political parties, and they have different ideologies. So that's why they are portraying their ideologies through their news channels. And this is the first case that I would like to tell you is about the JNU, is a Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi. So the students of Jawaharlal Nehru University, once they organized a meeting, and wherein they were started shouting some slogans which were not nationalistic, which were pro-Pakistan. Means Pakistan is a neighbor state. So in that they shouted some slogans like India go back, like Kashmir mange azadi, means Kashmir wants freedom. Kashmir is a state in the India.
I would like to add that that case sparked in the university because the student leader of the student organization, so Indian government was executing, they were hanging a terrorist, and then the students, they said that no, the terrorist was right and he should not be hanged, and that's how the students started shouting anti-India slogans.
So they were shouting slogans like this fight will continue till India's decline, and this we will fight until Kashmir gets freedom. So they want separation, and they was looking at shouting pro-Pakistani slogans. So in this case, what happened? Different types of newspaper reports started portraying this same incident as if though those students who were shouting the slogans, media houses started portraying them as a hero, that they are this is a freedom of expression, while it was not in reality. Because in USA, if somebody start telling that we will fight against USA until it's decline, we want separation of USA, so it will be not nationalistic idea, and it will not be the expression of freedom, because expression of freedom has also a limit. So that was the case. Different news channels started covering these issues, and international channels also, if you see, like New York Times also covered this incident, where it is said that now Narendra Modi is suppressing the freedom of expression in India. And then another issue was about the incident wherein there was a person, Akhlaq, he was in Dadri, Uttar Pradesh, and he was murdered by some people because of eating beef. So it was also a very national issue at that point of time, wherein different type of news channels covered that. Some news channels reported that he was killed because not just because of eating beef, but because he was a Muslim. So news channels started portraying these things quite differently. And another, this was the case like Dadri, Akhlaq, Purushka, and this was the channels, like everybody's attacking on Narendra Modi, while when the news reports were conducted, and in that news report it was found that no beef it was really the beef, and not because of Muslim he was killed. So everybody claimed. Now the Modi is looking where has everybody gone. So similarly, one incident also I also like to portray is about the murder of a Hindu doctor. So there were two incidents. One was a dentist was killed by some group of people, and in another was there was a engineer, he was killed. So these two incidents means both two persons were killed by some group of men. How it has been portrayed, just look at it. Dentist beaten to death in Delhi road rage. This was the news when dentist in Delhi was murdered, and Teki dies after attack by Hindutva group. So here it is showing because Teki was a Muslim. So now it is being portrayed that he was killed by Hindutva. Here murderer are being named, while in this case no Hindu and no Muslim. Similarly was the case like mob beats Delhi dentist. So mob was no religion of mob now here, but you will find Hindu outfit. The murderers are now Hindu. So how it is portraying? So this is the just through these incidents, I wanted to tell that the secular fabric of India is being broken by the media houses. In each incident, whatever happens, people start portraying that like there is a great clash between two communities. There is a clash between the people, and people don't want to be in India. They want freedom. So that is the case. So just in the end, I would like to tell that the secularism and nationalism are not two different things, but media is portraying a different thing. Wherein these two groups, minority and majority, they want to look together and they want to work together, but media is portraying it otherwise, and it is creating a clash between those societies.
Okay, we don't have time for questions, unfortunately, so we'll move